Welcome to the Intercut podcast, the weekly show going over the TV, movies, and entertainment that people can't cut away from. I am your co-host, Zachary Shevich, and joining me, he says simply no time for confrontation, it's Arturo Zurita.
How you doing, guys? I know you two are very excited for this podcast because I feel like this may be one of y'all's favorite directors of all time. He has two of my favorite movies. But I think you guys are very excited. I know you guys binge-watched the entirety of his collection. I got to see some of the ones that I haven't seen, a bunch of his shorts. I've been on my Spidey binge, only because PTA told me that we should be supporting Spider-Man in theaters. I love how it's switched now. All the directors said, don't see MCU, and now he's like, I got my tickets for IMAX, and now everybody has switched it over, but I'm excited to break it down.
He's the father of young children, and as such, he has become a Marvel dad. It happens to the best of us, and it happened to PTA too. But yeah, we had to bring on a fellow lover of Paul Thomas Anderson's films. He has so much love to give. He just doesn't know where to put it. It's Taylor J. Williams. Thank you for joining us for the PTA bracket, Taylor.
Thank you for having me back on. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to have Taylor joining us to talk about movies, talk about whatever is on our minds in the world of film. Let's start it off with a way that we usually start these filmmaker bracket episodes by talking a little bit about what the filmmaker actually means to us and what is a Paul Thomas Anderson movie. Taylor, I don't know if you want to start us off. What is a Paul Thomas Anderson movie to you? What does that mean?
I think what every Paul Thomas Anderson film boils down to is just an unhinged guy living his life, which in many ways I think is what Paul Thomas Anderson is.
For sure. For sure. So outsiders, dreamers, people riddled with anxiety, shooting for the stars. Art, what is a Paul Thomas Anderson movie to you? Is there an identifying characteristic?
Taylor put it perfectly. I think I'm just gonna leave that with it. Is an unhinged man. Not really. The more that I was looking back to it, I think he really has a vast, I don't think a lot of people would consider the guy who did There Will Be Blood to be the guy who did Boogie Nights, and then I feel like he was on something when he was doing Magnolia, and then you go from Phantom Thread to Licorice Pizza, and I guess you can connect the two, but then you throw in it's weird. It's you could almost think that a different director made several of these movies. I wouldn't know. I'm just going to stick to how Taylor put it. It's an unhinged man who makes decisions like wanting to cast Tiffany Haddish in an upcoming feature.
They're talking about it.
Make me not know where he's going to go. So it's a gamble every single time.
Yeah, I feel like the idea of what a Paul Thomas Anderson movie has evolved, right? Because his early films, there was maybe a little bit of Scorsese in them. There's maybe a little bit of Altman in them. He kind of, for a brief moment there, it's like, oh, he's the big ensemble movie guy. And since then, it's changed. I think maybe it was with There Will Be Blood, but it might have even been sooner, where he kind of developed his own style that is pretty singular. And Art, like you mentioned, there aren't really two films of his that are that similar. He's challenging himself to new ideas, new settings, even though they're mostly in California, new settings, and making just really interesting, diverse films. For me, he's a guy who I always think is going to give you a really, really interesting piece of character work, something that is immaculately filmed and brilliantly acted. The technical merits of his films are always outstanding, and they've just gotten more and more so as he's developed the power to cast whoever he wants or hire whoever he wants, basically, at this point. There are a whole bunch of things that PTA has worked on. Most notably, there are those feature films. There's a couple of short films that we will get into on our bracket. But interestingly, there are these abstract short films of sorts that he's made in connection with a lot of his films. I don't know if either of you guys had a chance to check out some of them. Taylor, did you see any of the
I've seen the Punch Drunk Love one.
Yeah, Blossoms in Blood, I think that one is called. What did you think about it?
I thought it was cool. I especially liked all the sort of cosmic, kaleidoscopic stuff that was included. Mm-hmm. A lot of it just kind of read like a deleted scenes reel. I don't know if it totally congealed into a new work for me, but
Right.
it's cool to watch. John Bryan's score is great.
As a way of presenting behind the scenes, I find it really interesting. Just that it has a little bit more of shine to it. You know, it kind of, instead of just giving you here's a scene, you get this abstract retelling of the story almost. And yeah, like you said, you get the John Bryan score in Blossoms and Blood. You get a lot of the Johnny Greenwood scores in some of these other ones. For the Hungry Boy is the one that is attached to Phantom Thread. That's really good. Back Beyond is the one that's attached to The Master. That is maybe my favorite of these short film ones. But yeah, just to get a little bit more of a glimpse is cool, although I don't know if it's going to surpass the level of any of his feature films. There's also a couple comedy shorts that he's done, whether they're attached to Punch Drunk Love or other things. I don't know if either of you guys checked out Couch or the Mattress Man commercial.
Love the Mattress Man commercial.
It's so good. All right, we're going to have to show you the Mattress Man commercial. It's very, very funny.
I didn't know that these were out there. These might have topped the list. We might have a completely different bracket.
Couch is too immaculately crafted for what the punchline of that film is.
It would just be like it would be the Couch bracket if we put Couch on it. It's a little bit too powerful to include here.
I understand.
Yeah. There's also there's a short film that he made attached to Magnolia. I'm forgetting the name. I had it here a second ago. But it only was screened once, so that one is not going to make our bracket. But what we do have on our bracket is his first couple short films, the Dirk Diggler story, which was a prequel of sorts to Boogie Nights, and Cigarettes and Coffee, which is a prequel to Hard 8, as well as some of his work in music video, whether that's Anima, which he did with Radiohead, or Valentine, which he did with Haim. Zach from the future jumping in here. I called Anima a Radiohead project when it's a Tom York project, which not a huge difference there, but I'm a big enough fan of Tom York, Radiohead, and Paul Thomas Anderson to care, and it bothered me. So every time that I say that Anima is a Radiohead project, know that I'm privately scolding myself and self-correct in your head. Okay, back to the bracket. But of course we have the feature films first, so we have a couple different sections of the bracket. I actually don't know if I sent you the version of the bracket where I moved Hard 8 to the other side, guys. I don't know if that changes the way you're going to handle this, but I'll just give you the matchups as we go along.
I'll roll with the punches.
All right, cool. So let's start things out with a couple of his earliest films, those early ensemble films that I mentioned, Boogie Nights versus Magnolia, two of his first classic movies in my mind.
Boy, you took out Magnolia against Punch Drunk Love.
Well, but I made Punch Drunk Love up against There'll Be Blood, so I'm killing my own darling, dude. Don't worry.
That's even worse. Okay, that's even worse.
I know.
You're good.
I know.
No, I was looking at some of the matchups, and I was like, this is just brutal first round.
So I switched up some of the matchups from when I sent you both the bracket because I just think they have a little bit more like thematic resonance. Pairing Boogie Nights with Magnolia feels right. Pairing The Master with Inherent Vice kind of feels weirdly right to me too.
Okay.
Let's get into it though with Boogie Nights versus Magnolia, that first matchup of ensemble films, sprawling movies that take place over a long period of time with a big cast. I mean, not so much the movies take place over a long period of time. They're just long movies. Both are really excellent, but Taylor, between these two films, which one is your favorite?
My choice of the two is Boogie Nights. That's a top three for me.
Ooh.
I do love Magnolia. I think it's very maximalist.
Yes.
I think it's him at his most coked out and just pounding out character after character. But I think Boogie Nights is perhaps a little more a portrait of a thing, whereas Magnolia, everything's connected. It doesn't have necessarily a glossy package, but I think that's because it's sort of trying to be about everything, and I think it manages to be about a lot of things in that breadth. But I think some of the connections are just a little too tangential. As great as they are, I think Boogie Nights is just a little more cohesive as a whole.
All right, I hear you, Arturo. Where are you going in this matchup?
Magnolia, I think, is one of the best movies that he's made. I'm going Magnolia. I would like to argue for Tom Cruise's performance in this movie and say that he should have won the Academy Award this year. That man gave it his all. Zach's going to have a phrase that I know he's used to describe this movie in terms of just its empathy, but I think that just the way that he interweaves all the characters, and this was one of the first ones that I saw from the man, that I rented from that Blockbuster on a stormy, rainy day. And I literally went out to check, just to make sure it was still water and not anything else that was coming from the sky. I absolutely love Magnolia. I am very curious to see which way Zach goes.
I gotta go Magnolia. Sorry here, Taylor. I mean, look, I just love so much about that movie. Boogie Nights is great. I think
what Boogie
it's
Nights
got
means
some of his
to people.
most iconic characters too, and in terms of the story, like, yeah, it's got more than most of his films. I feel like you can use Boogie Nights as like, this is what the time was like in a way, right? Whereas a lot of his stories are very focused on a particular character in a place. Boogie Nights is trying to give you a picture of a whole atmosphere, and it does that really, really well. I just don't know if Magnolia feels like such a unique beast to me that it would hurt too much to vote against it this early. So we're going to go with Magnolia here. I'm a little surprised because, yeah, man, Magnolia.
I'm certainly surprised.
A lot of people really like Boogie Nights, so we'll see if we upset anybody with that pick here.
Everyone's gone, Zach.
I have a feeling that we won't be going my way with the next matchup, which is Punch Drunk Love versus There'll Be Blood. There'll Be Blood, obviously everybody views as PTA's masterpiece, but let me just say that Punch Drunk Love is such a gorgeous movie, such a beautifully crafted tale of love and anxiety and things becoming brighter at the end. I was so touched the first time I saw Punch Drunk Love. It kind of felt like finally being seen in some ways. Just I don't know if I've seen a character as obviously neurodivergent, but not in a story about their neurodivergence, if that makes sense. And it's just really, really beautiful and heartfelt. It has these ultra romantic moments in terms of how it's shot, the colors and the music all coming together in this beautiful way. I will put my foot down and say that I love this film and it deserves the respect of all his films, but I won't begrudge you guys if you go with There'll Be Blood here.
I admire Punch Drunk Love a lot. I see it as the first instance of PTA sort of not course correcting, but making a smart career choice to not get pigeonholed as the ensemble guy. And in many ways it laid the groundwork for the rest of his career. Unhinged guy. The archetype is present in his previous films, but this is where retroactively you can go back and see that, like, this is sort of his core thing. I also think in many ways the filmmaking of it is his most, I guess, primal in what it's saying about the relationship and the arc of the character, not so much on a narrative level, but it's going up against a juggernaut here.
Yeah.
I am obligated to vote There Will Be Blood on this. And, you know, I'll be honest, Punch Drunk Love is pretty low on my PTA ranking, but it's still, like, for that to be low tier for a filmmaker
that says a lot.
Says a lot.
Yeah, certainly.
Yep. Art, I'm assuming you're going to go with the big man DDL in this matchup too.
But shout out to Adam Sandler, man. That's when I realized, I was like, you know what? He's more than just water. Because this is at a period in time where I just knew him as that. I just knew him as Bobby Boucher. I just knew him as Lil Nicky. And he comes in and he proves to you that, you know what? Every 7 years he will come in and give you a stand-up performance to prove he can act.
I want to say it was Ebert, but it always feels like it's Ebert. It might have been somebody else who said that this performance is so good that it retroactively makes all the other Adam Sandler performances better, because it shows you there's a depth to that kind of like wild man guy. I guess that he does sometimes.
You rewatch Waterboy and you go, that's what he was going. It was Brando that he was inciting. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure it's like a real quote, but in my mind right now it's just from the French Dispatch. But when he's like, to tell if he's a real artist, see if he can draw a normal picture. Whatever. I feel like that's Punch Drunk Love for Adam Sandler.
True.
I totally get that. All right, we go to a matchup of perhaps the two most mysterious Paul Thomas Anderson movies, The Master versus Inherent Vice. Art, which way are you going to go between these two films?
The Master, but that is only because I don't think I've seen Inherent Vice the way you're supposed to. Which is blaze as can be, which is, I'm pretty sure,
high out of your mind.
What the ticket says when you're supposed to buy it. I was not the biggest fan of Inherent Vice. That is one that I will revisit soon. But in terms of The Master, we just talked about There Will Be Blood, which I think is the best performances that he has been able to put out from a movie. I should say my favorite performances between Paul Dano and Daniel Plainview's character. The Master, I think, may technically be the best performances, though. Does that make any sense? Like totally. Technically, I think he got the best performances out of those two. Probably the best performances out of who is it? It's
Joaquin Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Philip Seymour Hoffman. Even though I do like the ones in There Will Be Blood more, I have to go definitely The Master. I'm going The Master over Inherent Vice, but it's like I don't think he'll ever direct better actors like he did in this movie.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Taylor? Are you going Master as well over Inherent Vice?
I'm going The Master for. I'm actually in the opposite boat as Arturo with my Inherent Vice viewing. I only saw it the first time the way it was intended, and I could not for the life of me keep up with it. I was strapped in for the ride. I was enjoying it, but I could not tell you what was happening in any given scene. I don't know if that's the case sober, but I do want to rewatch it just to have a better narrative grasp on like what literally, even though I don't feel like that's really the point of the film.
Yeah.
Very strong vibes. It's a lot more subdued than I expected, because I feel like just based on character design alone and following up Joaquin's performance in The Master, you'd expect this to be a very unhinged performance, but I do think Doc Sportello is one of the more subdued PTA protagonists.
Yeah. I'm going to go with The Master as well, but I did watch Inherent Vice again for in prep for this bracket under the right conditions, and I gotta say, like, on the rewatch, I was able to piece together the story a lot better than I expected. Maybe it's because I had the subtitles on, and watching that movie with subtitles feels a little bit like a cheat code.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it more than I was expecting to. It's got this real lyrical quality to the dialogue, just the way that these people speak to one another with that like detective-y 70s surfer slang. I think a lot of it's probably borrowed from the Pynchon novel, but it's a really great script if you like hone in on some of those lines. That said, I love The Master. Master's a really good movie. We're all going to go with The Master there.
Real quick, can I just say about Inherent Vice? I also see that as a similar career step as Punch Drunk Love, because I feel like I sort of see it as 3 eras for him. Like, he has the ensemble first era, which is kind of roped in with Hard 8 as like his Scorsese, Tarantino, whatever, and then Punch Drunk Love and There Will Be Blood kind of blend in with The Master as like very serious, focused,
yes,
almost Oscar baity, even though obviously that's not the case. So I feel like Inherent Vice is another strong pivot for him.
It's him making movies for himself.
Yeah, and I think all his movies are funny, but I think he's like, okay, I should probably start making comedies, because I don't want to bog everyone down.
Yeah.
And Catherine Watterson's also really good in it.
Oh, yeah.
I like Catherine Waterston a lot in it. I was surprised just how many big actors are in that movie. Like I even forget that Reese Witherspoon is in Inherent Vice. Owen Wilson showed up in Inherent Vice. Hong Chow, who I didn't really know was Hong Chow, has a much bigger role than I remembered in that movie. So a lot of stuff to like about Inherent Vice. The next matchup between maybe two of his funniest movies, Phantom Thread and Licorice Pizza. We just spoke in depth about Licorice Pizza, but Art, I know you have strong feelings about Phantom Thread.
It's my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson movie. It's the best one. I rest my case. Phantom Thread.
Taylor, would you go Phantom over Licorice?
Yeah, I'm going Phantom.
Oh, phew.
I remember the last time I was on this podcast. I think we were talking about Midsummer, but Arturo, you were talking about how, your relationship movie was Phantom Thread.
We had a messed up relationship because Alina's favorite movie is Midsommar, and then mine's Phantom Thread.
Oh,
We're
nice.
just messed up people at that point. I love this movie. It is because you look at the trailer, you look at the poster, and you think, and I think Zach noted this as well, this is his first only movie outside of California?
Yeah, the only movie he's made that's set outside California, yeah.
And like Taylor was saying, it seems like it's going to be this Oscar bait, very poshy movie, but it's this like rom-com hidden within a very toxic relationship type of a movie of a tailor and who ends up being his... I don't even know how to describe this movie. I just absolutely love it. I want to see more from Vicky Krieps and other things. Obviously, it's the go in... why do I keep blinking on his name, bro? Daniel Plainview.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Daniel
Day-Lewis.
DDL, my bad.
Yeah.
Danny Boy. Some of the best quotes in that movie... I mean, it's breakfast, bro. It's the most important meal of the day. And everyone must be silent. I absolutely love this film. I think it fires on all cylinders. Zach, are you picking Licorice over Phantom?
I'm a little on the fence, but maybe I'm just off that high of seeing it. I will also say Phantom is the one movie that I did not get to rewatch in prep for this bracket. So maybe I need to like refresh myself on what was
It's
so
on the
amazing
voodoo,
about it.
man.
I
It's
loved
on the
it.
voodoo.
I loved it. But yeah. So I'll check out Phantom Thread, but we'll talk more about Phantom Thread in the next round. One more matchup between feature films, perhaps his two most forgotten feature films. We have Hard 8, the debut movie, and Junun, his documentary about Johnny Greenwood's project with a bunch of international musicians they did in India. Taylor, I know that you caught up with Junun recently. Thanks for doing that research. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Well, what'd you think about PTA's lone feature documentary?
I thought it was interesting. I expected it to be sort of about, the trip and Johnny Greenwood collaborating with, these musicians. But it's really not. It's very much committed to just being a sort of an album movie, very much capturing the music more so than the performers and the people themselves, interspersed with some nice quotes.
It feels like a in the studio documentary, except their studio is this like amazing castle in India or something.
Yeah, there's this cool bird motif he's got going on. Yeah, no, I was pretty into it. I think it may be a little, I don't want to say underdeveloped, because I think he sort of captured it well, the music of it, but I don't really feel like I got a strong sense of what was really going on there.
For sure.
On all levels.
Yeah, I mean, I think I read in the behind the scenes that they actually had their film cameras held up in customs. So they ended up having to shoot it all digitally, and that's why you see him kind of like experimenting with a drone halfway through the movie. So there is kind of like a just thrown together quality of the documentary that I enjoy, but I think a lot of my enjoyment of it is that it's PTA and Johnny Greenwood, it's like two of the GOATs. So I don't know if I would pick it over Hard 8, because even as like underdeveloped in comparison to the rest of his filmography as Hard 8 is, it still is like a really interesting film. So yeah, I don't know if you're going to go with Hard 8 as well, Taylor.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Hard 8. I will say this new lineup is it makes a lot more sense than the one you sent me before.
Exactly.
But Hard 8, I think, is quite easily his worst film. I think it's generally pretty derivative and kind of meander. I mean, he's even said in interviews, like, it was sort of the product of, like, a young 20-something writing what he thought a movie was. But it's still, like, again, for that to be your worst movie, like, It's a good time. I enjoyed it. I think it might also be a little underdeveloped, but I don't know. I think for a first feature, and for as young as he was, it's still pretty impressive.
It's still a satisfying movie.
Yeah.
It's just like you said, it's not distinctive in the way that like all of his future films would go on to be distinctive. Like I don't know if you would mistake any of his films for coming from a different filmmaker, except for Hard 8. You could easily just have gotten Hard 8 from whoever, you know.
I agree.
Yeah. But I'm still choosing it here, I guess, over Junun. Yeah. Let's move on to the matchup of the short films, Cigarettes and Coffee versus the Dirk Diggler story. Art, I don't know if you got a chance to catch up with the short films.
I did. They're both on YouTube, so anyone can go catch them in beautiful 480p quality. Not even, really. Cigarettes and Coffee, I believe you said, would be sort of like a prequel to what Hard 8 would be about. And then the Dirk Diggler story, it's kind of like the short film version. You know, the concept of what he would eventually be Boogie Nights. I'm picking the Dirk Diggler story just because, as wacky as it is, I believe he made this when he was in high school. You know, he just got everyone together. I think his dad's in the movie as well. And it kind of gives you kind of like the gist of what Boogie Nights, you know, would end up becoming. It's just goofy. So that would be my pick between the two.
Yeah, it's funny because, like, as much as the production quality is obviously really low budget, like it's very obviously made by somebody who does not yet know how to make a film. There's some stuff in the script and the way the jargon and the interaction that you see a bit of PTA there, and you see the beginnings of what there's scenes that definitely stayed in Boogie Nights from the Dirk Diggler story. Taylor, which way do you land between Cigarettes and Coffee and Dirk Diggler?
It's no contest, Dirk Diggler. I think, Cigarettes and Coffee, like Hard 8, felt a little derivative to me. Hard 8 at least has the benefit of needing more of a story, considering it's a feature film. I don't know. Cigarettes and Coffee sort of read to me like, you know, like he was saying, what he thought a movie should be or what he thought a movie looked like. Someone who's watched a lot of Scorsese and maybe Tarantino. I don't know what year. I don't know if this was a post Reservoir Dogs. I think it probably was.
Yeah, it was post Reservoir Dogs.
But yeah, I feel like it's not bringing that much to the table, whereas the Dirk Diggler story is just in general a very funny film. You know, great industry jargon, just fully committed to the bit. And the fact that he made it when he was 18 is just incredible. I can't wrap my head around it. It's hilarious.
Yeah. Like the confidence on that dude to tell that story at 18.
Shows how funny he is, you know? Because I was watching this, I was like, yo, this man has been hilarious since the jump. So, honestly, if we had the Dirk Diggler story against Magnolia, it might have turned out differently. So.
All right, let's move into the last two matchups of the first round. These are both music matchups. Let's start with the music video category with what I think are maybe two of his most distinctive and interesting music videos, both early career music videos. There's Try by Michael Penn versus Across the Universe by Fiona Apple. Try by Michael Penn is by Michael Penn, who's Sean Penn's brother, interestingly enough. So they've been he's been circling Sean Penn for a while. I actually just listened to his interview on the Bill Simmons podcast, and he said that he offered Sean Penn the Alfred Molina role, the drug dealer role in Boogie Nights, and that didn't work out. So he's been trying to get Sean in a movie for a while. This music video, though, it was shot by his longtime cinematographer, Robert Elswit, the beginnings of their fruitful relationship. You even get a Philip Seymour Hoffman cameo here as the boom guy. I once read that this was shot in the longest hallway in Los Angeles. I'm not sure if that was just a joke, but it definitely seems like it. And it's pretty impressive in terms of how it was all staged. Whereas the Across the Universe video, it comes off of the Pleasantville soundtrack, which explains the kind of color, then switching to black and white tableau of the film. She, of course, dated Paul Thomas Anderson for a while around this period. I think they were dating when they made this video. She's made a few videos with Paul, even since they broke up. Hot Knife from a couple years ago is excellent. In the Across the Universe video, you also get a cameo from John C. Reilly. It shows up very briefly, but if you pause on the guy who's looting the jukebox, you can definitely tell that's John C. Reilly's face.
Dude, did you know John C. Reilly was in Licorice Pizza?
Yeah,
We didn't talk about that.
He plays Eddie Monster. I was like, what?
Is he? Do we know if he's there or if it's just his voice? Because his voice is so
he's
distinctive.
there.
It's off. That's him.
He's in heavy makeup, but it's definitely him.
Because I stayed to watch the credits specifically to look for, because it was Herman Munster, and they credit Herman Munster as himself, but that was definitely
Because that's
John
his
C.
line
Reilly.
too. He goes, "Yeah, I am the real one." That's funny.
I love their relationship. I just want them to do another movie together, man. It's been way too long.
John C. Reilly's underrated, honestly.
For sure.
Very underrated.
Yeah.
We'll do our John C. Reilly podcast soon, but
Honestly.
Try versus Across the Universe. Taylor, which way are you going to go between these two?
Personally, I'm going to go Across the Universe. I hadn't seen Try until doing research for this bracket.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, it's a pretty good video. It's
solid.
very impressive. It's all one take, right?
Yeah, all one take.
Right.
This is also back when PTA was kind of the oneer guy in a couple of those
true.
early movies. He had those long one takes.
Very, very Altman-esque.
Mm-hmm.
I think, it's impressive how much variety there is visually in the video.
Mm-hmm.
But Across the Universe, I watched, back in like middle or high school whenever I watched Pleasantville. And I feel like that music video is kind of better than the movie. I mean, the movie's decent. I think the music video...
I don't disagree.
Yeah, I think the music video kind of captures what the movie was going for a lot more succinctly and impactfully. I also think, maybe it's a hot take. I think the cover of Across the Universe is better than the original.
I'm
No
not
shade
going to
to my
argue
boys,
even because
but,
it is a really beautiful cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love my Wonders, but Across the Universe, that one's pretty good. It actually had me go and catch the other ones that you had noted there on Hot Knife, which is a little bit more simple, but he really does a great job at focusing on just the way she's singing the song and just the rhythm of the lyrics and how they're coming out. I honestly think, especially considering the work that he would eventually do with the next matchup with another band, I don't know, I think he's more creative right here when he's working with Fiona.
Yeah, he's definitely had a bunch of fruitful videos with Fiona, a fruitful relationship with Fiona in terms of their output. So we'll go with Across the Universe in that matchup. But the next matchup is a little bit longer music projects. He did Anima, and he's also done a couple other music videos with Radiohead. But let's talk about Anima, the Netflix project, and Valentine by Haim, one of his several Haim music videos, or Haim music videos. But this one is a collection of 3 songs sort of shot in the studio. I really like that you kind of can... The way that they use sound, the way that they capture even their movement for part of this video, it really feels like you're there in the room with them. And I think he does a really good job of giving you that sense of musicianship that these 3 have, the interplay between them. But Anima is really, really cool, guys. I'm going with Anima in this matchup. I don't know if either of you have any thoughts on his work with Haim.
Yeah, I thought Valentine was cool. I watched that right after Junun. And so I was definitely thinking about his sort of interest in, I guess, the behind the scenes, just like showing all the gear, even though the subjects we're witnessing are making like a polished project. He's a lot more interested in sort of the nuts and bolts, the hardware of it. But like you said, Anima is a full experience, and again, I can appreciate the intimate approach of Valentine, just being in the studio with them. But yeah, I think it's no contest, Anima,
for sure.
I think Summer Girl was better when it comes to the high music videos, but even then I would still pick Anima. But Summer Girl, I think, this is better collaboration with the sisters.
I like Summer Girl a lot. I just, I guess Valentine's maybe a little bit more substantial, given that it is almost 15 minutes long.
True.
But yeah, nothing that he's done with Haim, I think, goes to the level that Anima is. So we'll go with that one and head into our next round, the final 8, the Elite 8.
The hard 8.
The hard 8. Good one there. And talk about Magnolia versus There Will Be Blood. Are you an early PTA fan or a later mid-period PTA fan? Art, which way are you going to go between these two?
Magnolia.
Really?
Look, I could be wrong. This is one of those ones that's completely fine. There Will Be Blood should go forward. But if someone got to argue for it, I will. I don't think I've ever seen a movie like Magnolia ever again. I think it's more than an ensemble piece. I think it's a whole mood piece. I think this is a movie where you're really feeling the empathy of these characters to a degree that I think this is some of the best performances from a lot of these people, from a lot of the actors who are in this film. I personally, I love Magnolia. It's my top 2 of his, so I am going to pick Magnolia.
All right. Taylor, I take it from your reaction you're not going with Magnolia.
Certainly not. There Will Be Blood all the way.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
fair.
It's tough. Like, we Taylor, you were talking about top 3s. I think There'll Be Blood and Magnolia are maybe my number 2 and my number 3. So it's very hard for me here.
Which one's number 2? Which one's number 3?
Unfortunately, Art, I think that There Will Be Blood is
That's
number
fair.
2. But I went through 3 phases with Magnolia. First was watching it as a teenager and being smacked upside the head by it because I don't think I'd ever seen anything like it before. Second was feeling a little bit ashamed to love it so much because it is overlong, it's melodramatic. Like you mentioned, it's very maximalist. Like, it's got the frogs. And then more recently, I've just re-embraced it as a movie whose heart is so large it can't be contained to 3 hours. It's maybe the most empathetic movie that has ever been made. It's got so much love, too much love to give to too many characters, and I just kind of think I like movies like that. I have love all over. It's a great movie. I love Magnolia, but we'll go with
And Yet.
Yeah, and yet There'll Be Blood. Pretty great movie. So we'll go with There'll Be Blood in this
Drinking the milkshake.
Next is The Master versus Phantom Thread. Okay, Art. Why should we go with Phantom Thread here?
Come on, guys, grow up. Let's go. It's Phantom Thread, guys. We're talking about a movie here that really takes it to the next level of being an intimate piece between two people, of realizing in the most disgusting, toxic way the codependency that you have on another person in the funniest way possible. I present to y'all the dinner scene where she thinks she's a spy. She was sent there by someone to destroy him. It's also one of the most beautiful looking films, especially in the ballroom
it's gorgeous.
scene.
Pretty gowns.
Yeah, I would highly recommend it.
And what about you, Taylor? Which way do you go between The Master and Phantom Thread?
I'm going Phantom Thread.
Oh, thank you, Taylor. I love you. I love you so much. I appreciate you.
Okay.
Thanks, man.
No love for The Master. All right, I see. I really love The Master. I would go The Master here, but I get it. The Master is an inscrutable film. It's maybe PTA's most inscrutable film. But for whatever reason, I find The Master is a film that just sort of keeps luring me back in. And like maybe it's like you talked about, Art, it's got those performances. Like that Joaquin performance is just so mysterious. I think part of why Freddie Quell is such a mystery is the way that Joaquin plays him like he's a rabid animal.
Yes.
And then you have Philip Seymour Hoffman, who's like, has there ever been a more affable man on screen? And just this like toxic codependency that they develop is so fascinating. In my most recent rewatch, I just kind of felt like it was perfect. It's such a smartly told story, and it is a little bit hard to penetrate. But once you kind of get in there, there's so much to get from The Master. But we will go with Phantom Thread, making its way into the final four. Let's go to the other side of the bracket, the minor side of the bracket, I guess, if we want to label them. Hard 8 versus the Dirk Diggler story. A feature versus a short. Taylor, are you going
Dirk
with Hard
Diggler.
8? Okay. I see it. I mean, it's got a lot of personality for sure. Art, would you also go Dirk Diggler over Hard 8?
Dirk Diggler, man, they prayed to the Lord, please don't give us the catastrophe that is ED. They had to perform on that day. They had to go all out. Dirk Diggler all the way.
Mm-hmm. You know, if this was just a bracket of like what is the best movie, maybe it would make sense to go with Hard 8 here, but we're talking about what is the best PTA movie, and you get PTA from the Dirk Diggler story.
You do.
So we'll go with that one in this matchup. And then in the music matchup, we have Across the Universe from Fiona Apple versus Anima, the Radiohead short film. Taylor, which way are you going to go?
All right, I think this might be the first one that I've had to really sit with for a moment and contemplate.
Very different projects.
Yeah, it's really tough. I mean, Hard 8 versus Dirk Diggler, feature versus short film. I feel like just the quality difference in that made it easy, but here 40-minute versus 4-minute video.
Right. Like, do you punish the music video just because it's shorter, or is it that economy that makes it that much better?
Right. And honestly, I don't know if I've just sort of had it in my life for longer or what, but you know, I frequently come back to the Across the Universe music video. I liked Anima quite a bit, but I haven't rewatched it since it came out. I thought it was cool, subversive, whatever, but I think Across the Universe is a little more emotionally striking, so I'll go Across the Universe here.
Interesting. Arturo, which way are you gonna go?
Obviously, Anima has that Netflix budget. It's fantastic visually. It's fantastic, through its sound. It's very immersive. But I like the song from Across the Universe better. I'm not saying that it's better than the original, but I am saying that I do. If I'm gonna rewatch something, I agree with Taylor, where I'm gonna go back and rewatch the music video for Across the Universe before I do watch Anima.
That's a really good point. I definitely have returned to Across the Universe many more times than I've returned to Anima. I would go Anima between these two just because I think it is so distinctive and beautifully put together. Just that whole opening sequence where they're on the subway and just kind of, it's so unique in how it's presented and kind of fits that Radiohead vibe really well, that like unsettling nature of the music. I really like that piece, but I'm not upset about Fiona Apple making it to the final four. That's honestly one of my favorite music videos ever. So we will advance Across the Universe. Then the fight for the best feature-length Paul Thomas Anderson film comes down to There Will Be Blood versus Phantom Thread. Art, you've got your movie this far. Are you going to choose it over There'll Be Blood as well?
No, I'm going to pick Phantom Thread. Are y'all going to choose it is a different story.
What do you think, Taylor?
All right, well, as bummed as I was about Boogie Nights getting knocked out as early as it was, these are my top two.
Oh,
and this is really difficult. But I think I got to go There Will Be Blood.
Okay.
It's been such a foundational film for me. It's so simple in the symbolism of oil, and yet it's so sprawling and analogous. I love Phantom Thread. I could rewatch it over and over forever. But I don't know. There Will Be Blood has just done. I mean, maybe it's a recency thing, but I think There Will Be Blood has done a little more for me, creatively and emotionally. So I'm gonna go that way.
It is an epic film, and like one of the few films that maybe like deserves that kind of a huge qualifier in front of it. It really does kind of stand up to every accolade you could give it. A lot of films claim to be about America or about capitalism, and this is one that really actually feels like it's saying something in terms of that. I just think it's really an exceptional piece of filmmaking. Would you say that this is the only PTA film that's not a comedy? Like, it's got some comedy in it, but I don't know if I would call it a comedy.
It's probably his least funny movie. I mean, it for many reasons is paired up with No Country for Old Men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They shot in the same location, same year, same matchup, all that. And I think it serves a similar function in his filmography, sort of a harder pill to swallow with nuggets of humor within, but I do think it's going for something that gets a little more under the skin than his other work.
For sure.
Y'all would put it over No Country?
I would.
Also? All right, just wanted to make sure.
I would
'cause I
too.
as well.
I think when I first saw them, I would put No Country ahead of them, but There Will Be Blood has only grown in my estimation since then, and getting to revisit it and think about it and unpack it, that's one of my favorite films ever.
I think when you compare, personally, because No Country's got Bardem, one of the best supporting performances. But I think Paul Dano gave one of the best supporting performances of all time in There Will Be Blood. I think it's absolutely insane.
I cast you out!
In the church scene, unbelievable. So, rest in peace, Phantom Thread. I will keep it right here close to my heart in a little locket. I'm just glad I made it that far. If you haven't caught it, definitely do yourself a favor and go catch it.
Yeah, on Arts Voodoo. Catch it.
Log in.
The battle for the best short piece of media from Paul Thomas Anderson comes down to the Dirk Diggler story versus Across the Universe from Fiona Apple. Art, which one resonates more with you?
Don't make me do it. I don't know, man. For the story, I want to say Dirk Diggler.
Yes!
But Across the Universe is also really good. It's actually a very good music video. I actually really enjoyed that music video a lot more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
And it stuck with me a bit. But Dirk Diggler, he was 18 years old when he made this movie, and the humor is still there. Listening to him talk in the interviews that I was binging last night, you get a completely different person than what a lot of people I think would be P.T. Anderson or Paul Thomas Anderson. He is a much funnier guy. He is a dude who dropped out of film school because he didn't like what they were teaching and would rather go learn it himself. And I think nothing embodies that more than him getting his group together to make this movie at 18 years old.
Absolutely. Taylor, what about you? How much does Across the Universe mean to you?
Yeah, that's I'm thinking about it in two ways right now. On one hand, Across the Universe is an accompaniment to a film somebody else made that laid the groundwork. Mm-hmm. Whereas Dirk Diggler, completely original and laid the groundwork. On the other hand, Across the Universe kind of, in my opinion, polishes what its accompaniment was going for, whereas Dirk Diggler was expanded upon with Boogie Nights. So I'm really at a crossroads here. But
Taylor, I want you to think about the finale being There Will Be Blood versus the Dirk Diggler story.
Yeah.
The fact that Boogie Nights didn't make it, but damn, Dirk Diggler did.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
If you vote Across the Universe, the hard decision comes down to me. But
no, I think I'm gonna say Dirk Diggler. Just because that was, from nothing, completely
From the
crafted
bottom, bro.
by a high schooler. Just from what he had up here. Yeah, Dirk Diggler.
look at that, man.
Sorry, Fiona.
You got Boogie Nights into the finals one way or another.
Yes.
I love it. All right, so our final round is There Will Be Blood versus the Dirk Diggler story. And I love that it got here. It's awesome. It's hilarious. But we got to put a stop to this, guys. It's There Will Be Blood. It's There Will Be Blood. I was rewatching it. It's so trite to say it at this point, but Daniel Day-Lewis may be giving the greatest on-screen performance of all time. Just like the way he says, "Drainage, Eli." Like this is burned into my brain. He made "I'll drink your milkshake" into a meme before like the word meme was popular.
Yep.
It's incredible. It is incredible. I'm going There Will Be Blood. I don't know if you guys have any arguments against it here, or maybe just arguments for it. Why is There Will Be Blood so special?
The thing about Dirk Diggler is that there will be blood.
Yeah.
Yeah, as fun as it would be to see Dirk Diggler come out on top, it's no contest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, as I said before, oil as a symbol of the sort of church industrial complex and the greater implications of that, but also as the familial tie. I think there's a trinity there between religion, family, and business or capitalism. That's so simple, and I think with movies specifically, it sort of has to be. If you try to I don't know, examine on too micro a level, it sort of falls apart. But presenting it as it does, we as the audience are then able to sort of unpack it or unarchive it for all those micro observations. And I think it's just such a sprawling epic that, I mean, like you said, Zach, is one of the few films that you can truly say is about America. I think that not only ties together with what I was saying about Boogie Nights at the start, like really a portrait of something. I guess Dirk Diggler is too, but
in its own way.
Yeah, it's just such a fruitful film. There's just nothing like it.
Yeah, absolutely. It is one of the great American movies for sure. I'm glad it ends up on the top of this PTA list, even if it isn't my number one film. Would you say that is your number one PTA film, Taylor?
Yes.
Yeah.
My top three are There Will Be Blood, Phantom Thread, and then Boogie Nights.
Nice. Just looking back at some of these movies, he's a guy who tends to work with the same actors a lot. Worked several times with Philip Seymour Hoffman, and hopefully can kind of continue some of that through Cooper. We mentioned that John C. Reilly shows up briefly in Licorice Pizza, although I'm sure we'd all love to see him take a more substantial part in a future PTA movie. Is there another actor that you are really hoping to see him reunite with? Do you have a preference between his Daniel Day-Lewis work and his Joaquin Phoenix work? What do you think, Art?
You'd probably be able to get more out of Joaquin Phoenix, I think, and you can do some crazy stuff, because I think when you get Daniel Day-Lewis, you're not that you're pigeonholed to something, but I feel like that would be more of be it a period piece or something that's going to really surround around him, as opposed to Joaquin has no problem doing what Joaquin does and splitting the role with him. So if it comes down to those two, that for sure. I would like to see him, though. I think it'd be interesting to see him and Tom Cruise again, honestly. Just because I love what he got out of him in Magnolia. Yeah, but that'd be just a personal little aside to it.
I want to see Luis Guzman come back.
Yes.
That's decent right there.
Sure. There's no reason that Luis Guzman couldn't have shown up in Licorice Pizza. That would have been perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd also throw out Julianne Moore. I think he's gotten a lot of really great work out of Julianne Moore, one of my favorite actresses. Yeah. Great filmmaker. A lot of great movies, a lot of fun stuff to talk about. I don't know if any of y'all have any last thoughts on the man or what you want to see from him in the future. Taylor, would you say he's your favorite filmmaker? Because I'm comfortable saying he's mine.
Maybe not of all time. Maybe my favorite living filmmaker.
Ooh. That's fair.
I think there are a couple contenders, but I think I can probably say he's number one.
What about you, Art? Were you going to say something?
I mean, Denny's still mine, currently living, breathing, but I will say that if you needed somebody to actually go back to and listen to their interviews, like, he is a no BS director. That's what I really appreciate about the man. And just listening to him talk, he gives it to you exactly how it is and really breaks down what you need to do in order to get into the business side of things. I love how he thinks, not just artistically, but he also, he doesn't shy away from having grown up in LA and knowing the ins and outs of what you need to do to actually make a movie and to get it done. And I think that if you're an aspiring filmmaker, definitely look into his works. And even as someone who just likes movies in general, can't think of a more solid lineup. No bad films, really, in what he's delivered so far. So
absolutely, yeah. The quality and consistency, hard to beat with a guy like PTA. I think that about does it for this week's show. You can catch more from me, Zach Shevich, by following me on Twitter, Instagram, or Letterboxd at @ZShevich. Taylor, where can people catch more from you?
You can catch me at my YouTube channel, Taylor J. Williams, on Twitter at Taylor Film Guy, or on Letterboxd, where I'm probably most active, as much as I'd like to be a little more active on YouTube. That one's also Taylor Film Guy, or just my name, Taylor Williams.
Yeah, you could have gotten some sneak previews of your Paul Thomas Anderson takes.
Yep.
Right.
Art, where can people find more from you?
You can find me over on LME Explain on Twitter, Letterboxd. I'm looking out for a short film that's coming from Taylor as well, if he wants to shout that out.
Yeah.
Right. So I just wrapped my thesis short film. It's called Scratch Off. It probably won't come out for a while. However, I've got another short film that'll probably hit the internet a little sooner. It's called Fiber Optics.
Nice.
And I'm very excited about both of these. Scratch Off may take a little longer for wide audiences to see, but yeah, very excited about both.
We'll be patiently awaiting them.
For sure. So definitely keep an eye out for that, and keep an eye out every week here on the Intercut podcast.
You can listen to every episode of the Intercut podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, your favorite podcatcher. I like Overcast, and then make sure you're subscribed not just to the audio version, but to the video podcast as well on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/intercutpod, where you can watch our bright smiling faces as we break down the latest in entertainment. Find new episodes of Intercut every Monday. Please leave us a comment, like the video, and consider heading over to iTunes to give us that much requested 5-star review. Shout out to our listeners in Poland for putting us on the TV and film podcast charts out there. Dziękuję. Like our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. All of them are at IntercutPod, and support us at patreon.com/IntercutPod to get updates throughout the week from Art, from me, from Taylor, from all of our guests here on Intercut. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, that's that, Mattress Man.